Hi everyone, Bob Getty here. It's been my go-to restaurant for the past 15 years. Movie Star Restaurant in Oak Grove. Southern comfort food. Fried chicken, peas and cornbread, squash, homemade mashed potatoes, fried chicken, salads, desserts. Southern comfort buffets. Monday through Friday, 11 till 2. Friday nights, 5 till 8. And of course the after church Sunday buffet, 11 a.m. till 2 p.m. Movie Star has been serving the Pine Belt for over 25 years. In my 15 years, I've never had a bad experience. Not one. And I don't think you will either. Movie Star Restaurant in Oak Grove. Proud to have my friends at Movie Star as one of the sponsors of Legends.
Welcome to Legends. Conversations with the greatest sports legends of Mississippi. Now, from the studios of Anatomy's Fitness Center in Hattiesburg, here's your host, Bob Getty.
Welcome everyone to another edition of Legends. I'm Bob Getty, and as always, we're broadcasting from the Anatomy studio here in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. Our program, we're happy to say, is sponsored by the wonderful people at Jewel Masters, where selling your gold is simple, secure, and always rewarding. Their certified experts evaluate your jewelry with complete transparency, offering top dollar payouts on the spot. So whether it's old, broken, or simply no longer your style, your gold is just worth more at Jewel Masters. Honest service, immediate payment, real value. Bring your gold to Jewel Masters today. Jewel Masters, of course, across from Academy Sports on Highway 98 West. Legends today has a true legend on the show, the perfect 10, Reggie Collier, clearly the most dynamic football player in Southern Miss history, and a man with a fascinating background, history, and of course a big member of the Hattiesburg community. So Reggie, first of all, thanks so much for coming on, man.
Yeah, not a problem, man. Glad to be here.
It's not our first conversation together, but the first one on Legends, and we're really happy to have you. I want to start back when you were a kid. I found it interesting, and I know a lot about you, but I've done some additional research, and found it interesting that you didn't really start playing sports until your junior year, and that's because you were living with your grandfather at the time, and he didn't believe in that, did he?
No, he didn't. He didn't. My grandparents were great. They were Bishop Robert Nance and Octavia Nance from Biloxi. Took my brother and I in when I was 5 and Tommy was 3. Parents got divorced, and so they took us in, treated us as their own. And my grandfather was an interesting individual. It's kind of crazy. You know, the older you get, I heard this saying one time, the older you get, the smarter your parents become. You know, because of all the things that they've told you during the course of your life growing up, and you have a tendency to think back on it now and say, you know what, they were right. And my grandfather was a self-made man. I mean, a property owner, retired from the military, retired from the railroad. So he was very successful. And but he was also a bishop in the Church of God in Christ, which is Pentecostal religion. And he was a firm believer in what he was doing and how he was doing it. You know, it's a matter of talking the talk, but also walking the walk. You know, the man lived his life, you know, through his religion, and that passed on down to us. Mm-hmm. So there were certain things we were allowed to do. We weren't allowed to do a lot of extracurricular activities that most kids did. We didn't do, but you know, it was a good childhood. It was good. It was just as you got older, as my brother and I, Tommy, got older, you know, we participate in the yard and at the gym and things like that. But it got to a point where we wanted to participate at the school, whether it be football, basketball, whatever the case may be. So my grandfather didn't actually believe in that because just to put it in short term, it was of the world. So with that being something that was of the world, we didn't participate, and he didn't allow us to participate. So it was this particular moment in my life. My mom was kind of in and out, and her name was Brenda Collier. I love to death. She had asked my grandfather, would he allow us to participate in some of the school activities such as football, basketball, and he was vehemently opposed to it. It was like, just kind of put it plain and simple: my house, my rules.
I've heard that before.
Yeah. My house, my rules, and as long as you're living in my house, that's not going to happen. And my dad, Thomas Collier, who was retired from the military, retired from the Air Force, was living in D'Iberville. So we used to see our dad all the time. So my mom just said, I'm going to make a decision here. The boys want to play ball, so we would just had the conversation with my dad about us coming to live with him, which would enable us to participate, because my dad was a ball player. We used to go to softball games and everything when we were kids, and you hear through word of mouth, the athlete that he was. So I guess we righteously got it from him, him being an athlete himself. And he agreed. My grandparents weren't too thrilled about that decision, but then we made the move to D'Iberville. And that's why a lot of people ask me, Reggie, where are you from? I'm from Biloxi. Oh, did you go to Biloxi? No, I didn't go to Biloxi. I went to D'Iberville. So that's how that happened, by me participating sports at D'Iberville. So this was like my sophomore year in September. So it was too late to start football at that time. So my sophomore year, I played basketball and ran track, and then went out for spring ball that following spring. So, and at that time, Buddy Singleton was the head coach at D'Iberville, and it was a different situation, because you have to realize that this is over 45 years ago. So at that time, I don't think anybody who was an African American had played football at D'Iberville. So, which really didn't bother me. I mean, it did to a certain, it was something to think about. And of course, it was something that had to be addressed, by me going out to play and participate. And I think
There were no black players on the team?
no.
You were the first.
Father, I know.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and I could be wrong. I just don't remember anyone ever telling me, who played prior to me getting there.
Well, that had to be a whole nother level of pressure for a kid.
Well, this is the crazy thing about it. We thinking about it, and we're looking at that situation from a guy who's 64, 60 years old, and you create these situations, and you call them pressure situations. But as a kid, you just want to play ball.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you just want to play ball. Now, was it a situation that was apparent, that was in front of you? Yeah, I realized that, but you really didn't consider it as pressure. And I think Buddy, Coach Singleton, I still have a hard time calling him Buddy. Coach Singleton did a fantastic job of navigating that situation. Because there was a couple issues in the beginning, because you got to realize this is the mid-'70s, not too far removed from, 10 years ago when the civil rights stuff was going on. So you were just 7-8 years removed from all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So there was racial tension, especially in the rural areas. down south. And D'Iberville at that time was considered a rural area.
Were you accepted though by the Albertville fan base, coaches, and school?
Well, the crazy thing about it, no one knew about me. So it's not like you could pull up a YouTube video of me and say, well, he's coming, this kid's coming to join our team. And no one knew. So it's just a matter of me wanting to go out and play football.
Yeah.
And I did. And like I said before, Buddy did a tremendous job of navigating that situation, of integrating me into the system to where there really were no issues. Coach Singleton was one of those old ball coaches. If you did it his way, or if you didn't do it his way, you weren't going to play. He didn't care what your mama thought. He didn't care what your daddy thought. He didn't care. I mean, he ran his program the way he wanted it to be ran. Now, he was tough, but he was fair. And so, I really appreciate it. And it seemed like the older I get, the more I appreciate him for how he handled it, how he handled me, how he handled that whole situation. So you have me coming in who's really never played. And then not only never played, but coming in at a quarterback position to lead a team, to be the only African-American on the team. And, I caught more flack from everybody else more than I did, of course, from everything, from the other communities when we were playing. But, winning solves a lot of that. It takes care of winning football games, basketball games, baseball games, takes care of a lot of underlying issues that otherwise, if you weren't winning.
At every level.
Right, at every level, that if you weren't winning, you don't necessarily have to deal with. So D'Iberville was known for a winning football program. That continued when I got there. And, it was one of the most dominating high school teams that, even though we weren't, you would compare it as a 6A to a 7A school now. D'Iberville now is a 7A, along with Oak Grove and some of the bigger schools in the state because it's grown so much. But at that time, we would have been equivalent like of a 6A team. So we didn't play Biloxi, Gulfport, Moss Point, Pascagoula at that time. So, but we did have an undefeated season. I only played my senior year was my first full season.
Because you were injured after a few games your first year.
Yeah. I actually, during my sophomore year in high school, during spring practice, I broke my collarbone. So I got halfway through that, broke my collarbone. Then the following fall, the third game of the year, I broke the other collarbone. Because, mind you, I was thin as a rail. If I weighed 165 pounds, that was a lot. So here I am, 6'3" frame, 160-something pounds. I was pretty thin. But my senior year was my first full season as a high school athlete playing football.
And you guys went undefeated.
We did. We went undefeated. We gave up 17 points the whole year in 11 games, 17 points. And then we played they didn't have a playoff system at that time. So, they had these little small bowl games around Mississippi.
Right.
And we played Ocean Springs in the Shrimp Bowl with another athlete who was a tremendous athlete named Eddie Hornback from Ocean Springs. Eddie signed with Notre Dame right out of high school with Lou Holtz and Notre Dame. So that kind of told you the kind of level athlete Eddie was. But but the thing at D'Iberville was an experience that the older I get, the more I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
The people that I was associated with back then, you just have a deeper appreciation for what was going on, when it was going on, and where it was going on.
Right. So Reggie, when you came out of high school, you're quarterbacking an undefeated team. How heavily recruited were you?
Not at all. I mean, Tulane recruited me, Jackson State. I went on a visit to Jackson State. Alcorn recruited me at Delta State. And that was about it, because, there was no internet, so whatever you saw in the newspaper, and it was a word of mouth,
right,
and that kind of thing. So, and to be honest with you, Bob, I really wasn't focused on football.
Mm-hmm.
I love basketball.
That was your first love, basketball?
My first love was basketball. I
can see that.
I was hoping to play an NBA in basketball or something, but, and it was another lesson taught by Coach Singleton. It was Whitey Jordan was recruiting me from Southern Miss. All right, and I would talk to him a couple of times a week, and I'm trying to figure out, what's going on. I mean, you telling me certain things, which you expect someone recruiting to tell you, but I'm like, you telling me this, ain't nobody else telling me this. Well, what's going on? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. But my high school coach sat me down one day in his office and he said, Reggie, I know you like basketball. And I think it was right before my senior year. He said, but he asked me, he made me answer my own questions. It was like, what position do you play? Even though he knew me. I said, center. He said, how many centers do you know playing college basketball right now that are 6'4"? I said, not many. I said, there's a couple, and I started naming them off. He said, yeah. He said, you got the perfect height to play quarterback, at the college level. And I'm like, okay, all right. Still it didn't hit me at that time, but I still kept repeating that conversation in my mind. I'm like, he is making a lot of sense, So,
and it was a man you trusted too.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
definitely. I trusted his opinion and what he thought in whatever direction, definitely had an impact on me. And so, that's how that thing happened, man. And it was like, like I said, it was only 5 schools, and Tulane had Rock Hunters, who was a starter for Tulane for 2 years, and they had another guy. It's amazing I can remember their name, but Rock Hunters, and then they had another guy named Nicky Hall behind him, was about 6'6", weighed about 220. I'm like, all right, let's do the math.
mm-hmm.
If I come to Tulane, I'm going to be a junior before I even be considered, because these 2 guys are good.
Yeah.
And I came to Southern Miss, and, you just kind of play the game of, okay, what if? Who's who? Where's where? Where are they? And how would I fit into that mix?
Mm-hmm.
Based on what you think you can do and what they are doing, which would have been completely different. The offense Tulane was running than I had ran in high school. The offense I ran at Southern Miss was similar to what we did in high school, the veer and reading option and that type of thing. So, and I felt comfortable with Coach Collins and Coach Jordan, and not too far away from home. Right. So, it was a good
fit.
Yeah.
Okay, Reggie. So you go to Southern Miss, and it's your sophomore year that you really came on the scene in a big way. And that was also the time, and young fans today, it's hard to make them understand how significant this was if they weren't around. You brought in the era of Eagle Fever. Do you remember that?
Yeah. I was Yeah, I was part of the group that kind of brought that on. It was interesting because at that time, Southern Miss was known for the football program as a tough team that it really didn't matter who they played. It was going to be a game, but against some of the top tier teams, never really was expected to come out on top. Every once in a while, you might pull an upset here and there, but you felt very comfortable against the Arkansas States and Louisiana Techs, that you could win it. But when you play some of the SEC teams, the Auburns, the Alabamas, the Florida States, and you really wasn't expected to win. But I the group that came in, I came in together, and maybe the class prior to me getting to Southern Miss, because one thing I do remember is that the class prior to me coming, all of them were redshirted with the exception of Ricky Floyd. He was the only one in that class that didn't get redshirted. So the year I came in, you almost had two classes in one. As freshmen, some redshirt freshmen, true freshmen. Then you had a lot of guys who came in when I was freshman who played a lot as freshmen. George Tillman, Greg Kelly, Ed Ray Walker, those guys, they played a lot as freshmen. So it was, that group that really kind of set the tone.
Yeah, well, that group that you led, first Southern Miss team to make the top 25.
Yeah.
And in a day that's different than it is now. It was really significant then.
It was. I mean, because we got on a roll and, we had beaten, I think we had gotten to like 6-0, 7-0. First time we'd ever got ranked. So that was a new experience. The attention that came with that and the enthusiasm, everything that came along with it was different. And as soon as you have a sense of accomplishment to a certain degree because you had done something that really had never been done before. So here we are, 6-0, when we were undefeated, we rolled into Tuscaloosa. And, just like you're saying, the Eagle Fever people saying, the first time you ever been ranked, and we rolled into Tuscaloosa and they ranked number 1. All right, mind you, I grew up watching football on Saturdays that would have Alabama against Notre Dame, Alabama against USC, those kind of games.
And here you are playing Alabama.
And here I am now in Tuscaloosa playing against University of Alabama football and Coach Bear Bryant.
Yeah.
And I think when you mentioned Alabama football during that time, he was bigger than the game of football himself.
He was bigger than life almost.
Right. So here I am. I'm trying to block all this out as an athlete because, we got to go play this game. And we're fairly confident as to what we were doing because we had been making progress all year, getting better and better and better to that point to where we were. And that game was significant in so many ways. Because number one, we felt like we had a pretty good football team. Number two, we're going places we've never been before. And then that particular game is when I really realized how mental the game is as well as physical. Because I'm going to tell you about this little story, is when we're warming up, it really didn't affect me at all, who we were playing and all this other stuff. When we, night before, didn't have a problem sleeping, Game day routine was the same. And we're warming up in the end zone. All right. So all of a sudden, people go crazy. Fans go crazy. And I'm like, what's going on? I ain't see nothing happening. And then standing behind me, leaning against the goalpost, was Coach Bryant. So I turn around, and at that point, I'm like, damn, playing against Coach Bryant in Alabama. So it's one of those situations where mentally you're at a place that you don't think you should be at. So here we are, Southern Miss playing against Alabama. I ain't supposed to be here. You know, it's one of those situations. It's not like you give up, but it's like a place you've never been before. And it's like that dream girl you dating, and you all of a sudden you date her, and you hey, what the hell? What's going? I mean,
what do I do now?
Yeah, how do I handle this? And so the game went, 7-7. We felt like we're playing. Then all of a sudden the wheels fall off, and at the end of the game it's 42-7. All of a sudden, because that's when I realized this game, the mental aspect of the game, I have to approach this game in a different way. It doesn't really matter who we're playing. We can compete at this level. We can compete against anybody, because once the game starts, it's too late if you're not ready mentally. Mm-hmm. And then that's where that so-called pressure is created, because you're trying to do things you normally don't do. And in a way, it was a good thing. Yeah, it was an embarrassing loss for us, but it was, now that I look back on it, it was a major teaching moment for me personally, because I'm saying to myself, I have to be prepared physically and mentally. It didn't matter who we played, where we played them. I've got to be prepared mentally in order for that to happen. And the position that I was in as a quarterback, you don't necessarily aspire to be a leader, but people will follow you because of that position. And they pay attention to you. They pay attention to your mannerisms, what you do, how you do it, and then they follow. And so, you know, that was one of those times I'm saying to myself, you know, we can do this. We can be as good as we need to be if I do what I'm supposed to do.
Now, that was your sophomore year.
That was my sophomore year.
So it was the next year that the school went on to go to a bowl game against McNeese State and won that bowl game. But it was the next year that the magic really happened.
Yeah.
The next year that you became – I want you to think about this a second. In the long history of college football, you became the first Division I player your next year to rush for 1,000 yards and pass for 1,000. Never been done. Pass for 1,000 yards.
Right.
You were young then. Did you understand the significance of what you had accomplished?
I did not. Because we were taking it one step at a time. We broke it down. Of course, you have team goals as to what you want to accomplish at the end of the year. You know, you want to win every game. You want to do this. You want to do that. But I think Coach Collins and his staff did a very good job of breaking it down, of taking it one step at a time. And we took it one step at a time, one game at a time, and break it down even further. You know, Coach Jordan used to say, win every play. We get 4 yards a play, we'll win. 4 yards a play will lead to first downs. First downs leads to touchdowns. Touchdowns, you winning. And collectively, we had a damn good team. I mean, my name is brought up a lot in for that particular time, I was at Southern Miss, but we had a collective group of guys who were just phenomenal, especially our defense.
Right.
And you talk about that year, my junior year.
The real nasty bunch.
Yeah. We had some guys who were pretty dominant. Not necessarily individually dominant, but as a group, they were pretty dominant. Anytime you can go 11 games and play the schedule we had and give up an average of 8 points a game.
You went 9-2-1 that year.
Yeah. And, the reasons we lost is because what nothing the defense did is because we couldn't get nothing going on offense. But,
right.
That's just the way it is. But, to get to the point to where the way we were playing and who we were playing and guys who were counted on to make plays, made plays. So it was a very unselfish group. We used to, I think that year Sammy led I don't know if it was that year or the prior year, led the country in scoring. It really didn't matter who scored, as long as we scored.
Mm-hmm.
And so
that record wasn't that important to you at the time.
No, it wasn't, because number one, I didn't know about it because it didn't even exist. Didn't know about it during the course of the year.
Who told you?
Well, I think it was coming into the last game. Coach Jordan might have mentioned it, and I'm like,
but they didn't make a big deal out of it.
No.
Is that right?
No, it was not it was
the first time ever that had happened, and your coaches just downplayed it because it was about the team, right?
Oh yeah, and I felt the same way.
Yeah,
I felt the same way. It was about us winning, and because there were several times our offense didn't necessarily perform as well as we needed to perform, but the defense always stepped up. Always. One game in particular that really stands out in my mind is against Mississippi State. In Jackson, we played one of the best defenses, college defenses, with some of the best personnel that you'd ever want to meet on a college football field. You got Glenn Collins and Tyrone Keys. Both of those guys were first rounders. With Johnny being the second pick of the first round, it was, you knew coming into that game, it was just going to be a matter who made a mistake. And number two, who capitalized on that mistake. Because we scored one touchdown that game. And the reason we scored that touchdown is, I'll never forget his name. Forgive me, Rob, but his name was Rob Fitzmyer. Rob was returning a punt for Mississippi State, and he fumbled it. And we got it. And it took us 4 downs to go 4 yards. That's how we scored.
Right.
So that's a perfect example of what I was talking about, and what we were talking about is just at the end result is winning. It didn't matter how it got done, whether it be a 50-0 score or a 7-6 score, as long as we got the W.
Right.
And yeah, it was that whole year was something special.
And to recap that game for people that may not be aware, Southern Miss won 7-6, 2 top 25 teams, and at the time, the largest crowd to ever witness a collegiate sporting event in the state of Mississippi.
Yeah. We it was gonna be, it was a big game. Anytime you play state, you play Ole Miss, Alabama, Auburn. It's a big game, but those games were special. Those games were special with in-state rivalries, playing a school in-state, and we just happened to be 2 pretty good teams coming in at the same time, and we know it was big, and the crowd, was enormous. But we kind of knew on the bus ride, because if we played a game in Jackson, we would leave day of riding to Jackson, because it's just a 2-hour bus ride. So right when you come in, I think it's, what's
Flowwood.
right when you come into Flowwood, the buses started to slow down. And we were trying to figure out what was going on. Maybe it was an accident or whatever. But traffic was kind of backed up.
Yeah.
Back to Flowwood, people trying to get to the game. And then once we got to the stadium, you kind of knew. You come out to warm up, and the crowd is bigger than normal, than usual for warming up. And then when you go in and come back out in the tunnel, it was something that you noticed in the beginning of the game, and then you just kind of forget it, and because you just go play ball. But that was one of the loudest environments I'd ever been in, because not only was the crowd huge, but you implement the cowbells. Oh my goodness,
It was loud.
yeah. That's kind of made that whole thing special because of the cowbells, because you played Mississippi State, because it was two top 20 teams playing against each other. And what was at stake? For us, it was to continue to be undefeated, and continue that run that we were on. So it was a lot at stake, but at the end of the day, it's just a matter of going out and competing. That guy standing next to you, knowing that he's going to do his job, and then him knowing if I do my job, will allow me to do certain things.
But what I'm hearing here is, despite that enormous record, all the accolades that came your way your junior year, All-America, you really became a household name in the world of college football. What I'm hearing you talk about is winning games and what your teammates did to help you win.
Oh yeah. See, that's one thing. It's great, to be mentioned. But it's one thing that I've always realized, and I realize it even more now, is football is a game that every individual is depending on someone else in order to be successful. I got to depend on 10 other guys in order for me to be successful. One part of that machine breaks down, you're not successful. So everyone taking pride in what they do, making sure they do their job, that allowed myself, Sammy, and others to do their job. So it's like that. It's like and I think I've used this analogy before with you. Is like a fine-tuned engine. You got a perfect V8 running with the turbos and all that other stuff that's going on, but let a spark plug be missing. Mm-hmm. Let a spark plug not sparking the way you're gonna lose that horsepower.
Right.
Or something in that engine is not working the way it's supposed to work. That engine will not function at 100%. So collectively, all of it has to come together at the right time in order for that machine to perform perfectly. Mm-hmm. And football is a perfect analogy, a perfect example of that. Those guys knew that if they did their job, it would allow me and others to do our job. Now, did it work perfectly all the time? No. But collectively, as a group, during the course of a game, it worked. Right. 99% of the time. So it's I'm cognizant of the fact that, you stick me out there, I can't do nothing 1 against 11. Nothing. I can't do it. Mm-hmm. I can't do it. So personal accolades came along after the team success. You have the team success. That the personal accolades come afterwards. They come along with it. It's like a tag team partner. Mm-hmm. One succeeds, the other will follow. You can have all the personal accolades you want, and you can name individuals all over this country, and you could pick any time period you want. What will be recognized is those teams. that are winning, and then the personal accolades and the personal stories that come along with All-Americans are 9 times out of 10 associated with those teams because they're winning.
Right.
All right, you would not hear any. You would, if Indiana was not winning, you would not have heard as much about Fernando Mendoza.
Right. People love a winner, Reggie.
They love a winner.
Yeah.
You know, you win. Who was the run-up in the national championship game 3 years ago?
Nobody knows.
There you go.
Yeah, but you know who won it.
But you know who won it.
Right. Right.
You don't remember who was the run-up?
So now, though, and I'm not going to spend much more time on your college career because everyone knows about that, but in summary, twice All-America, team of the century at Southern Miss, one of only 4 players, I believe, to ever have a jersey retired.
Yeah.
What is that? That's got to mean something to you now when you walk in the stadium and you see Reggie Collier, number 10, and there are only 4 in the history of the football program up there.
It does. I mean, it's a great honor. It is. But it's also, you know, and it's like I say, it's just that is also, I am also associated with one of the best teams to ever play at Southern Miss.
Mm-hmm.
That to me means more to me than anything.
Than the number 10 hanging in the stadium?
It does.
Does it?
It does. Don't get it twisted. Now, it means a lot. I mean, personally, as an individual, that jersey hanging up there is an indication of what my contribution was during my time at Southern Miss. And that time was special. But I also played with some special guys.
Right.
And to me, that, you know, you see that number 10, and if you know Southern Miss football, you're going to say that 1981 team. So that number, even when people see that number, especially a lot of my teammates, they should feel a certain sense of accomplishment themselves because they helped me get to that point.
Right.
You know, so that's one thing, you know, I will not get lost on is the fact that I had a whole lot of help in getting that number.
You and I have had a lot of conversations in the years, and you always talk about that more than you do ever what you accomplished. You always talk about your teammates.
Yeah.
Always.
I mean, because it's true. I mean, those guys, and I bring his name up a lot. You know, Neil Alexander, he played fullback for us. Neil very rarely ran the ball. Very rarely. Neil did a whole lot of blocking. But Neil never complained, not one single time, about getting the football.
Really?
Never.
He opened up a lot of holes for you and Sammy Winder, didn't he?
He did. And it's one thing I didn't have to worry about once the ball was snapped either, whether Neil was going to get his block. Now, did he get it 100%? Nobody's perfect. But Neil was one of those guys where you had confidence in him, just like he had confidence in me, that he was going to do what he was supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of those guys out there, you know, I played with some great players. Lewis Lips, you know, Don Horn, Sam DeJarnette, Glenn Howe, you know, those guys, Freddie Richards, Mike Livins, those were not household names.
Mm-hmm.
But I still remember all those guys for what they did and what they were able to do and their part in making this right. whole thing work.
Right. And it worked.
Yeah.
It sure worked.
Yeah, and it worked. So
let me move the story forward. So you have a legendary career here, and we just talked about the accolades, but you said something to me very interesting before we started taping this show. When you left college, you were drafted in the 7th round by the Dallas Cowboys. Mm-hmm. And in the first round, by the Birmingham Stallions, then the USFL, which was set up to be a competitive league against the NFL, and they were going after players like you, Herschel Walker, Doug Flutie, people like that. They were reaching out and pulling those players into their league. You were a number one draft choice in the USFL, and you told me before we started taping this show that was a big mistake to take that contract.
It was. To a certain degree, it was a big mistake because of the simple fact of my development as a player, as a young player, as a quarterback who was still learning, who it's kind of a twofold thing because USFL, and I'm not going to say it was a complete mistake, but USFL gave me an opportunity to play quarterback, which meant a lot to me.
And that's why you chose that path, correct?
That was one of the main reasons I chose that path, was because they were going to allow me to play quarterback. I had an interesting conversation with the scout my senior year, and he told me, Reggie, if you decide you want to come out and be an athlete, you'll be a first-round pick. If you decide you want to play quarterback, you'll be a fifth, sixth round pick. And that is something I just could not quite understand and couldn't wrap my head around it. And don't get me wrong, too. There was a certain amount of pride in who I was. Felt that if given the opportunity in the right situation, I could flourish at quarterback. And that meant a lot to me, personally. USFL gave me that opportunity to do that. But you look at the situation with the USFL, everything is starting from zero and going 100 miles an hour, trying to get everything done like in a 6-month period, whether it be the organization, your front office staff, your coaching staff, your facilities, how you're going to do this, how you're going to do that. You got people from all different entities trying to come together as a unit and trying to make all this stuff happen and virtually kind of do it overnight. So it was a lot of chaos in the USFL and trying to make that happen. And, for me personally, you got all these new faces. No one has been together. You got all these new faces, new coaching staffs. The guy who was the running back coach was my quarterback coach in Birmingham. So that's completely opposite than what you're used to having. The familiarity in who you're working with and who's coaching with you, the new players. And on top of that, I was fortunate enough when I was at Southern Miss to never really get hurt. As much as I ran around, I never got hurt. So, and I think the third game in Birmingham, the very first game in Birmingham, I had a bad hip pointer. I was like, this is crazy. Then 3 weeks after that, I tore my ACL. So I'm out that year, and ACL was a lot different then than it is now. I mean, of course, when you talk about time and technology, how it's advanced in 40 years. So it took about 1.5 years to recover from that. And once I did recover from it, then that's when the league folded. Then once the league folded, Dallas had my rights because they drafted me when I was already signed with the USFL.
Right. Because they didn't think the USFL was going to last.
Well, and that's true. And that's why they drafted me. So when the USFL folded, Dallas had my rights. And so upon going to Dallas, they kind of had thoughts on what they wanted to do with me, and my thoughts were a little bit different. And I'm going to be honest with you, I didn't agree with it, and I didn't handle it probably the way I should have. A little immature on my part, which is not the time nor the place to do that, especially in the organization that I went to. You know, when you're at the Dallas Cowboys and Coach
Tom
Landry.
Landry's the coach, yeah.
Right. You know, I'm trying to fight the system, and I'm trying to fight Tom, and
And you were not ever going to win the battle with Tom Landry.
Well, I thought I was. But,
yeah, but you know, now you weren't, right?
Yeah, I can't win. You can't win that battle.
Right.
And, you know, so from that point, and by the time I figured it out, it was too late.
Well, I want to say this to you, and you react to this, and you tell me if I'm wrong. Everything I read said that all of the Dallas Cowboy coaching staff really liked you. They liked your attention in meetings. They liked your ability to adapt to the offense. They liked everything about you as an athlete.
Right.
But you were in an era that the NFL was very resistant to two things: mobile running quarterbacks and black quarterbacks.
Yeah,
and that you were 20 years ahead of your time. You were the Michael Vick of your time at a time the NFL didn't want a Michael Vick.
I would agree with you, but it's one of those situations where it's an open secret.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody knows it, but ain't nobody gonna say nothing.
Everybody knew it then.
Yeah, and like I said, it's a part of that thing you trying to fight and try to fight a fight that you just can't win. And so I remember one time in a preseason game, I was playing. I took off running. Coach Landry came and said, "Reggie, we pay people to run the ball. You ain't one of them." I said, "Okay." And I just kind of walked off.
And that was your forte.
Yeah.
In a way. You were
trying,
a great passer.
Trying to make something happen, but that's not how they wanted it done. And you know, but.
So what did that tell you that day he said that to you?
Oh, I kind of knew it before Tom even told me that. It wasn't no big secret. I knew it, you know, but I'm still out there just playing ball.
Mm-hmm.
But you had to, you know, move within the system
mm-hmm.
in more than one way. I mean, and like I said, the immature actions on my part, and you know,
for example, what do you mean by that?
Just the attitude in dealing with situations, you know, not necessarily sometimes shutting your mouth when you running your mouth when you should be shutting up. I mean, it's just one of the situations where I look back on it now and it's just very immature
mm-hmm.
actions that, you know, just a little bit more maturity would have helped the situation a lot. Whether it would have happened or not, who knows? Because at the time, you only had two black quarterbacks prior to me being in Dallas. That was Warren Moon and Doug Williams. So, you know, the precedent, you know, wasn't a lot of precedent.
Right.
You know, so it was just a difficult situation, you know,
But do you hold any bitterness about that, Reggie? I know the answer to that question because I've asked you this before. But looking back, how could you not be a little bitter about the way you were treated in the NFL?
You know, you think back on a lot of, like I said before, what ifs, and it don't really get you nowhere. You know, it really doesn't. Could it have been done differently? Yeah. Yeah, on both parts, on their part and my part.
Mm-hmm. So you accept some of the blame yourself.
Yeah, I do. I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and get on a pedestal and say it's all their fault. No, I'm not saying that, and we never said that. I've never said that. But things were done a little bit different. If thinking was different, if the approach was different, there would have been a different outcome.
Yeah.
I mean, there ain't no doubt in my mind because, you still had to go against the system. The NFL machine, even for, Warren Moon to have played, he went to Canada for 7 years before he even came there.
Well, that's right. And Doug Williams, growing up having been a Redskin fan, I can tell you that Doug Williams had a hard road to hoe.
I mean, the man won a Super Bowl, and he virtually couldn't do anything afterwards.
Correct.
I mean, opportunities were few and far between.
Correct.
So, and then you had Buddy Ryan, who was somewhat of a renegade in the NFL.
I read where you said you would like to have played for Buddy Ryan.
Yeah, I mean, he was somewhat of a renegade. I mean, that's what gave Randall Cunningham his opportunity to play. Because he wouldn't necessarily say, "Oh, I don't give a damn what you say. This is what I want." But, it's just one of those situations, man. Probably done a little bit different, on both parts. But, I mean, it is what it is.
And to this day, and you'll always be that in the Dallas Cowboy history books. I don't know if this is important to you or not, but you were the first black athlete to ever play quarterback for the Cowboys and the first black man to ever start a game as a Dallas Cowboy quarterback.
Yeah, I mean,
does that mean anything to you at this point?
Not really, because to a certain degree, yes. Then again, no. Because what it really boils down to is your performance. When you actually go out there and do what you're supposed to do and do it at a high level, whether you're black, white, whatever the case may be, it's just a matter of going out there, doing your job and doing it at a high level and being recognized for that.
And that's the great thing about sports. It always takes that away. When you're a fan or a teammate, you don't care what color the athlete is. That never really enters your mind. I mean, they're wearing your team's uniform. But again, Reggie, you didn't experience that when you went to the NFL. Well, so that had to be a hard pill to swallow.
Well, you got to realize, too, now, we're talking 45 years ago.
A long time ago, yes. That's not the way it is in the NFL today.
In today's game, it's a matter of getting it done and getting it done now.
Yeah.
I don't care who you are. I don't care what you do. Do I think a little bit of that still exists today? Yeah. But it's not as overt as it was at that particular time where you have, 30-something teams and you have 5 black quarterbacks. And each team carries 3 quarterbacks. So
it's still there to a degree.
It's still there to a certain degree, but it's just not. I mean, like I said before, today's game is so much different because in the league it's so much different. The time is so different because it's all about winning. You winning, number one, you're gonna make money. And we know that's what drives this train is the money. The money that the teams, the NFL, everyone is making now. It's all about winning. You don't win, that money, that revenue stream is going to slow down an awful lot. So, and not only win, but they want to win now.
Right.
At
what point did you give up on that NFL dream? Was there one thing that made you realize I'm going to move on?
Can we help put on hold? I got to go to the bathroom.
Yeah, sure.
Well, when it comes to you moving on, the game always moves on before you do. The game tell you, I mean, mentally, you feel like you can play 20 years till you 30-something years old. Just mentally, you always feel like you can compete. But, and I think we've had this conversation before, is there are very few guys who leave on their own accord. Very few. The game that kind of lets you know when you retire, not you letting the game know when you want to retire. So mentally, even a couple of years after you're out of the game, you still feel like you can play. And so the game itself dictates when you quit. And for most people, that's where it is. Whether it be 2 years, 10 years, 15 years, or whatever. You can ask a lot of guys, even when they stop playing, did they necessarily want to quit? No. No, you always feel like you can play.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what made the difference between you and any other individuals, because you have that innate confidence that you can do what you want to do physically, and you can perform physically, even though you may not, the reality of it is you can't, but mentally you think you can.
Right.
So, it wasn't, because of the climate and everything else, even though I knew probably wasn't going to get back, I still thought I could,
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the things that you kind of think about now. What if this, what if that, but I don't lose any sleep over it now.
Right. Some athletes can walk away from their athletic careers and never miss a beat. Some can't. What was it like for you when football was finally no longer a part of Reggie Collier's life?
No, it was difficult because it had been a big part of my life, so much a part of my life prior to. So then you integrate it into the real world, because football is a fantasy. Athletics is a fantasy. You're just living, you live in a fantasy. It really is. And it seems like as time goes on, that fantasy gets bigger and bigger. And a lot of people just don't realize how far removed athletics and athletes are from the real world. And I'm not talking about financially. I mean, even that's different. I mean, because a kid can go now and make $2 million in an NIL deal, and he's 19 years old in college. That's not realistic. A 19-year-old making $2 million,
Mm-hmm.
1 year out of high school. That's not realistic. It's real, but it's a fantasy. They're living a fantasy. So once that stops, what are you going to do in life post that? Even if you don't go to the NFL,
Mm-hmm.
everything is sped up now. I mean, you usually have to wait till you get to the NFL to experience that. Now you're experiencing that in high school. I mean, some kids can get paid now, depending on what state you live in, can get paid now as high school senior.
Right.
So, with that being said, it's one of those things, and it's hard to tell a 7, 18, 19-year-old kid, savor the moment, enjoy it, but it's not going to last forever.
Yeah.
You think it will. You think it is.
So it's a hard transition.
It can be a very hard and cruel transition.
So let me say this to you, and you tell me again if I'm wrong. I think, and I've gotten to know you, I've been fortunate to get to know you over the last few years. I think the greatest part of the Reggie Collier story is not all the accolades on the field, but how you hit a low point in your life when you left playing football, but you had the fortitude to overcome that and be the man that you are today, with no bitterness, with seemingly no hard feelings about what I think was unfair treatment to you. And you returned to Hattiesburg, and now you're a successful businessman. That's not an easy thing for a lot of people to do, Reggie. How'd you do that?
Well, at some point, you have to make a decision in your life. Do you want to start living? Not just existing,
Mm-hmm.
but do you want to start living and enjoy some of the things that life has to offer? Some of the people just enjoying yourself, living life, and not just existing, not just, all right, this is what I gotta do. No, you don't necessarily gotta do anything, but comes a point in your life where you got to make a decision and saying, do I really want to continue to do what I'm doing, or do I want to go in a different direction? Now, going in that different direction may be a little rough water. Maybe, you could be swimming upstream for quite a while before you get back downstream. So, it got to a point in my life where I decided, you know what? I'm going back to school. I'm going to get my degree. And then once I did that, I just decided, you know what? Hattiesburg is not such a bad place. And it really wasn't. Because when you look at, because I had always said, when I leave Mississippi, I ain't never coming back. No. But you live life, you go through some changes, you go through some highs, lows, and sometimes you realize where you come from is not necessarily all bad. It's really not. And so when I did make that decision to come back to school, I have to thank Mr. Giannini, athletic director at USM at the time, was a huge part in me getting back into school. So when I came back, I went to school full time for a year and a half, which was kind of crazy because here I am 40-something years old in class with 19 years old.
And you're Reggie Collier.
Yeah. I'll tell you this funny story. So I'm in this accounting class and I'm talking to this young lady in front of me. We're just having a casual conversation. She has no idea who I am or whether I played ball there before or not. We just having a conversation. I forget her name, but she, I tell her who I am, and she say, "Yo, okay, Reggie." Then the instructor walks in, and I actually went to school the first time we were in school together. So she's running through the list of people, students, and she gets to my name, and she says, "Is this the same Reggie?" I say, "Yeah, this is me." So she proceeds to tell the story about when we were undergrads at that particular time. And the girl turns around and looks at me and she said, "Oh, Mr. Reggie." And then I'm Mr. Reggie. So I go from having a conversation as Reggie to now I'm Mr. Reggie. So that was an experience coming back to school, going in class to the youngsters. But it was the best decision I ever made in my life.
Yeah.
Made some bad ones, made some good ones, but coming back to Hattiesburg is undoubtedly the best.
Is this fair to say that you had gone through so much in your life, but here at Southern Miss and Hattiesburg become a welcoming anchor for you?
Oh yeah, most definitely. Most definitely. Because
and that means a lot to you now, does it not?
It does. It meant a lot 20 years when I came back. Just being at home, not only Hattiesburg, but just Mississippi, South Mississippi, is, where it all started, for me, in so many ways.
Well, it's full circle in a way.
Yeah, it's definitely full circle, athletically, personally, to be back here. I need to write a book.
Yeah. Well, I know how you feel. My life and my wife's life, different circumstances, obviously, but circumstance allowed us to come back where we began our life together.
Yeah.
And I had that true sense of the full circle has closed.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's closing. I'm not naive to think I'm gonna live forever. That circle is closing.
Yeah.
But, for it to have come back to the point to where I'm back in Hattiesburg, is satisfying in itself.
Yeah. And how it was meant to be.
Yeah, yeah. And you can go through any kind of particular scenario or however you want to put it. But, being back, South Mississippi is home.
Yeah.
And being back home in comparison to some of the other places I've been.
Home is good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know how you feel.
I spent some time in New York, which was definitely an experience, a life experience, being in New York. But New York is different.
Yeah.
It's different. I'm not a New Yorker.
No, you're a Mississippian.
Yeah, I'm a Mississippian, man.
Now, here's my final question for this show. You told me this a couple of years ago, and I want you to explain to our listeners why this is. All-American, team of the century, retired number, played for the Dallas Cowboys, big star in the USFL. You told me one time there is not one trophy, not one picture, not one piece of memorabilia from those times in your home today. Why?
Because, to a certain extent, it kind of goes back to what I said earlier about the team thing. A lot of those awards are accomplished in the team. Now, I do, in my office at the house, I do have a jersey that when they did the retirement ceremony.
So you broke down and hung one thing.
Yeah, that's in the office. No one goes in the office.
Okay.
So if you were to come into our house right now and walk through the house, you would see pictures of myself, my wife, grandkids, all of that. But you would not see a
That's amazing.
athletic picture.
That's amazing.
I've got a picture of us at Alabama when Coach Bryant came up to me after the game.
Mm-hmm.
I've got that picture. I've got the jersey in the office. That's it. Because
he said you were the greatest college football player he had ever seen.
And that was a great look,
the greatest college football player I've ever seen from Bear Bryant.
Yeah, Coach Bryant was a little up in age, but the fact that he said it still holds up.
I don't think it had anything to do with his age.
Still carries a lot of weight, and that's
nothing to do with his age.
That's a special moment.
Yeah,
that's a special moment, and one that I will cherish always. But yeah, and a lot of people who know me, especially around Hattiesburg, that they'll know we can have a 10-minute conversation. We ain't got to talk about football at all.
I know.
I
know.
We don't. And that's the great thing. Just being able to communicate with people, talk to people, and at the end of the day, for them to say, and I think everybody kind of would like for this to happen. I just had a conversation with Reggie. He's a nice guy. Not Reggie, the football player.
Right.
Although they kind of come hand in hand.
Right.
But, I just the fact that me being able to communicate with people as Reggie, means a lot to me. Because we can play a round of golf, we ain't got to talk about football at all, or whatever happened to Southern Miss.
Well, I know in conclusion two things about you. I know you're the greatest football player that ever wore the black and gold. I just don't think there's any argument. And I think anybody that watched you play, if you didn't get to see him play, go back and Google the perfect 10 on YouTube. I think that's a fact. And number two, I'm glad that you got through the bad times. You did so well. You're back in the community because Reggie Collier, you're an important part of this community.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And again, it's I'm grateful to be recognized as one of them. But there have been several I mean, there have been some athletes come to Southern Miss.
There's no doubt.
And I'm just happy to be a part of Southern Miss football and a part of the history.
And you're a big part of it.
That's
a legendary part of it.
That's associated with USM football. And, I'm grateful for that. I really am, just to be a part of it. Grateful to be a part of the Iberville football. Grateful. I'm just grateful to be a part of the community. Grateful to be able to play golf, even though I'm not very good at it. But I got a lot to be grateful for.
Well, I'm grateful that you've allowed me to become a friend through the years, and I'm grateful that you came on this show today, because the show's called Legends. There is no bigger Southern Miss legend than you, my man.
Well, thank you, man. I appreciate it. I really do appreciate it.
The great Reggie Collier on Legends, and we thank him very much for being a part of the show. I want to remind you that we record this show at Anatomy's Fitness Studio, this beautiful podcast studio that Patrick Ruby built. Anatomy's a great place to come to be the very best you can be physically and mentally, no matter what your age or walk in life. So, Reggie Collier, thank you very much.
Thank you, man.
We'll see you next week for another edition of Legends. This is Bob Getty. Thank you for listening.
Legends with Bob Getty is produced at the Anatomy's Podcast Studio in Hattiesburg. Thank you for listening to this edition, and join us again soon when we talk to Mississippi's greatest sports legends.